What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Tea Time Podcast, where we talk truth, we talk therapy, and we talk transformation. I am your host, Royalty. And before we really get started, if you are new here, be sure to follow, be sure to subscribe. Um, for those that are returning, I appreciate you. Thank you. Huge round of applause to you for continuing to support. You know what they say, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And the numbers show um, the increasing in awareness. Um, watch time is going up, listening time is going up. So I appreciate you for sharing, for constantly returning and supporting here at Tea Time. We really, really appreciate all the support. I'm your host, Royalty, and I'm not gonna hold you. We gonna get right into it. And today I want to ask you a question, and it's not a complicated question. It's not some deep psychological question that requires you to sit down with a therapist or look back and figure out your entire childhood or anything like that. It's just one simple question. And that question is, what are you waiting for? Like, seriously, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the right time? Are you are you waiting for more money? Are you waiting until you feel confident? Are you waiting to lose weight? Are you waiting until you heal? Are you waiting until somebody apologizes? Are you waiting for somebody to recognize your worth? Are you waiting for motivation? Waiting for somebody to come along and help you? Waiting for things to become easier? What you waiting for? Like, truly ask yourself that. In life, if you are not where you are, or you have not started going in the direction that you want to go into or anything, what are you waiting for? Because the uncomfortable truth behind that is sometimes that thing that we're waiting for, it's not coming. And sometimes we're the ones keeping ourselves waiting because we won't take that step. We're playing the waiting game. I think a lot of us, become comfortable with saying, I'm going to do it when I'm going to start when I have more money. I'm going to start when I got more time. I'm going to start when I feel better. I'm going to start when the kids get older. I'm going to start when the relationship's stronger, when the relationship gets better. I'm going to start when I get this job, when I leave this job, when I move. I'll start when I lose weight. I'll start when I feel confident. And eventually when just becomes a lifestyle. It just turns into a habit. And you just keep pushing your own life into the future. Pushing it into tomorrow, pushing it until next month, pushing it to next year. Waiting for things to settle down, waiting for things to get better, waiting to feel ready. But here's the problem. Life doesn't always give you a clean starting point. Sometimes you have to start in the middle of the mess. Sometimes you have to rise during the chaos. You have to look at patience versus procrastination. And I want to make something clear. I'm not saying we have to rush everything. That's not what I'm saying, because there's a difference between patience and there's a difference between procrastination. What patience says is, I'm avoiding the opportunity because I'm afraid of what happens if I actually try. While procrastination says, I'm avoiding the opportunity because I'm afraid of what happens if I actually try. Those are two completely different things. And sometimes we're not waiting because the time is not right. We're waiting because we're scared. We're waiting because we're scared to fail. We're waiting because we're scared that people will judge us. We're scared that we'll succeed, and now we'll actually have the expectations to live up to. We're scared that if we try and we don't make it, that we'll have to confront the possibility that maybe we just not who we thought we was. So instead of failing, we just simply don't try. And then we can tell ourselves, I really could have done it if I wanted to. But truthfully, that's a dangerous place to live, because eventually you start protecting yourself from failure. You protect yourself from failure so much that you also protect yourself from growth. Let that sink in. You protect yourself from failure so much that unconsciously you are protecting yourself from your own growth. Got to stop confusing excuses with explanations. Yes, life is hard. Let's be real. People have responsibilities. People have children. People have bills, trauma, setbacks, lose jobs, change jobs, go through breakups. People get disappointed. People get tired, feel unmotivated, feel sad. People experience things that completely knock them off course. And those things matter. Not going to downplay that. Those things matter. But there's a difference between acknowledging what happened to you and allowing what happened to you to become the permanent explanation for why you can't move forward. Listen to that difference. There's a difference between acknowledging what happened to you and allowing what happened to you to permanently become the explanation for why you can't move forward. Your circumstances can explain your position. They don't necessarily have to determine your situation. And sometimes the adjustment is not, how do I make everything perfect? The adjustment is, given what I have right now, what's my next move? Given that I'm in the situation that I'm currently in, how do I move forward? Changing the mindset. That becomes a different mindset. Not trying to make everything perfect, but instead figuring out what's the best thing to do in the current situation. Huge football term that I've learned growing up in my life. And a shout out to Coach Antonio White, great friend of mine. Huge shout out to him, because he used this term in everyday life, and it helped me and my son actually take that term and grow it in our lives as well. And that's, instead of making excuses, make adjustments. We have to make adjustments and stop making excuses. Sometimes your original plan is not going to work. Okay, adjust it. You wanted to work out 5 days a week. You only got time for 3. Do 3. Doesn't mean, since I can't do 5, I'll do none. Do 3. You wanted to build a business full time, but you're upset because you still have to work. Build it part time. Wanted to write a book, and you wanted to write it in 3 months, but life got crazy. Things got out of control. Take 6 months. Adjust it. You wanted to completely transform your life overnight, but realization is that transformation doesn't work that way. Adjust. Don't abandon the mission just because the original plan got interrupted. And that's something I think we need to learn. Obstacles don't always mean stop. Sometimes they mean change direction. Sometimes you don't need a new dream. You need a new strategy. You need a new blueprint. You need a new plan. Doesn't mean you have to scrap what you've started. Just figure out the best way to move. Adjust it. Stop waiting for people to validate you. That's another one. You got to stop waiting for people to believe in you before you choose to believe in yourself. Because sometimes the people closest to you aren't going to understand your vision. Ooh, felt that. Sometimes they don't see what you see. Sometimes they only know the version of you that they've always known, and that's okay. That's okay. You cannot spend your entire life trying to convince everybody that your dream, your vision is legitimate. At some point, you got to decide for yourself that it is. At some point, you got to look at yourself. You know what? I know it's legitimate. You got to take yourself serious. You got to start to move different. The promises that you making to yourself, at some point, you got to start keeping them. Because confidence isn't always something that you find. Sometimes confidence is something that you build through evidence. Every time you say you're going to do something and you actually do it, I see y'all like that one, and you actually do it, you give yourself evidence. I think every time you make the difficult choice, you give yourself evidence. Every time you keep going after a setback, every time you keep striving for the comeback, you're giving yourself evidence. That's how you start believing in yourself. That is where you forge that confidence within yourself to keep going. You don't need to feel ready. One of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves is that I'm just not ready yet. And maybe you're not. Maybe you are not. But here's the thing. You don't always become ready before you start. Sometimes you start and then you become ready. You learn. You adjust. You make mistakes. You gain experience. You build confidence. You become the person capable of handling whatever it is that you're asking for. Just think about that. You got to start, even if you don't feel that you're in that position to start. You weren't ready for every challenge that you've already survived, but you survived them. There were situations that you walked into. You walked into situations thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And somehow you did. So maybe the next chapter doesn't require you to know exactly how everything is going to work out. Maybe it requires you to just take the next step. And that next step sometimes can look like starting over. But what do you do when life forces you to start over? Sometimes life doesn't always ask you whether you're ready. It just changes. A relationship ends. A job disappears. A friendship changes. A dream doesn't work out. Just all around you, doors closing, and suddenly you're just standing there with a thought. What now? How many of y'all had that thought? What now? I know that place. I know that place where you realize that the life that you thought that you were going to live isn't necessarily the life that you're living anymore. But starting over isn't always punishment. Sometimes starting over is just an invitation. It's an invitation to ask yourself, who am I now? It's an invitation to ask yourself, what do I actually want? What did I sacrifice? A big question for me is, what did I stop doing? What parts of myself did I abandon? And I think the biggest question becomes, what did I learn? And what am I going to do with what I know now? Because maybe the goal isn't to get your old life back. Maybe the goal is to build the life that actually fits what you have become. So, full circle moment, what are you waiting for? Let's bring that question back around. What are you waiting for? I want you to really think about it. Not what sounds good, not what you're going to tell somebody else, but what are you actually waiting for? Are you waiting for permission? Are you waiting for confidence? Motivation? Are you waiting for somebody to choose you? Waiting on an apology? Closure? Are you waiting for a specific circumstance to become perfect? Are you waiting for the fear to disappear? What are you waiting for? Because here's the thing. Fear may come with you. And you may just have to start scared. You may have to start uncertain, broken, tired. You may have to start without everybody supporting you. You may have to start before you know exactly what you're doing, where you're going, or even how it's going to get done. But you can still start.
It's time for tea time.
And the tea time truth is that you got to stop waiting for your life to become different before you start living differently. Your life is not laid out perfectly how you want it. And your life may not change overnight, but your decisions can. Your habits can. Boundaries can. Priorities can. Environment can. Effort can. Your response. All those things can change overnight. And sometimes transformation begins with somebody incredibly small. Somebody feeling incredibly small. Sometimes it can transform with something incredibly small. One decision, one phone call, one application, one workout, one apology, one boundary, one page, one song, one business idea, one therapy session, one morning. One morning when you get up and decide, I'm not doing this the same way anymore. That's where the change begins. So before you leave this episode, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, what have I been waiting for? Number 2, is what I'm waiting for actually necessary? or am I using it as an excuse? Number 3, what's one thing I can do this week that moves me closer to the life that I say that I want? Not 10 things, not 20 things, not 100 things, just one. Because sometimes we're so focused on changing our entire lives that we overlook the power of changing one decision. And I want you to remember this. You don't need to have the entire road mapped out. I'm a firm believer in it. I am a living proof of it. You don't have to have the entire road mapped out. You don't need everybody to understand. You don't need to feel completely confident. You don't need to know how it's going to end. Only thing that I'm asking you to do is just stop standing still.
It's time for tea time.
It's tea time. And that's truth. And that's therapy. That's transformation. And sometimes transformation starts with telling yourself the truth. So I'm going to ask you one more time. What are you waiting for? And most importantly, what are you going to do about it? If this episode spoke to you, share it with somebody who's been stuck, somebody who's been waiting for the perfect time. I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment down below. What's one thing that you're going to stop waiting for? What's one thing that you're going to stop waiting on? And remember, don't just talk about the life you want. Start making the decisions that create it. This is Tea Time. I am Royalty. Remember, positive energy always creates elevation. And we will see you next time.